reading the scriptures this Sunday, I couldn't help but remember a homily that Father Billy Morell preached. He was the president of Oblate School of Theology. This was some 25 years ago. And we were returning students at the end. I was in the seminary, returning at the end of the summer. He also was returning from the Oblate missions in Zambia. And the homily that he preached, he invited us, in his words, to mind the gap. He just come through London Heathrow Airport, and all of the trams that run around the airport warn you as you get on and off to mind the gap. And that phrase that you heard over and over in the airport was already resonating in his heart. And he invited us to mind the gap between the poverty of Zambia in Africa and the wealth of San Antonio in the United States. But also, he had to confess the need to mind the gap between the seminary, the novitiate that he was staying in Zambia, with its wealth and walls and armed guards that walked the walls, and the poverty around the seminary. I'm not opposed to us having the things that we need in life, right? Things are sometimes very useful, very helpful. But there's a prioritization in how we use things that's very important. And Jesus, as he sends out the 12, he wanted them to prioritize those encounters over their own comfort. And sometimes our stuff gets in the way of our encounters with other people. I think this is probably a dangerous thing to say in my video, but I don't lock the door to my trailer when I'm not there. But the reason I don't is because there's nothing inside that anybody would want to steal. Because I think it's important that we live with the people around us. And I don't want to live with armed guards around my trailer, and I don't trust the lock on the door to do any good. That in our lives, stuff doesn't just clutter up our lives. Sometimes it does, right? Sometimes a second house, it seems like such a good idea, but it becomes so expensive and so problematic and takes up so much of our time. Maybe we didn't really need it, right? And we certainly didn't need the third one. But that cost of opportunity, but it's not just that, is that stuff sometimes gets in the way of our open relationship with the people around us. Money does, I think, three things. The first layer, money is comfort. It's what we need. It's food. It's shelter. The second level of money is security. And the third level is power. And Jesus invites the disciples to go out with what they need, but no security, and certainly no power. Because security and power oftentimes get in the way of our best human relationships, the vulnerability that allows for friendship and love. And he sent them out in a very vulnerable way. And sometimes we start to think that our stuff is giving us security. It's a very dangerous mistake we make, because in the end, it's not very reliable. And sometimes we think it's giving us power. Also a huge mistake, because in the end, it's not very reliable. For a time, money, stuff, will give us those things, but ultimately they fail. They fail either because we die, or they fail because the stock market crashes. And Jesus is inviting us into a different kind of relationship with each other and with the kingdom, a vulnerable place of trust. And I would think that maybe in our lives we've been able to see the gap between my life and someone else's. And I don't know always how to fix those gaps, but I would with the trams in Heathrow Airport and with Father Billy Morell, suggests that we would do well to mind the gap.